Welcome to LollieTasking with ADHD. I am your host, Dr. Lollie, a multi-passionate mom of three, a physician, and an ADHD life coach because, like most of you amazing women listening, I have ADHD. Join me as we chat about how ADHD affects our lives and learn strategies to help us all thrive, not just survive, with ADHD so we can live the life we want while accomplishing all our goals. Let's get started. Welcome to LollieTasking with ADHD. Again, I am Dr. Lollie, a physician and ADHD trained life coach for easily distracted women who are so tired of being busy and ready to be more productive so they can accomplish their goals with ease. So, before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to Jenny, who left a review. Jenny is from Texas, and she said, Dr. Lollie, I am so excited I have come to know your podcast. It is hard to find podcasts that are geared specifically to professional women, and I have been told because I am smart and I have accomplished several things, there's no way I can have ADHD. Even though I know deep down I've probably been hiding it from everybody and I have it. Thank you for listening to me and thank you for letting me be seen. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Jenny, for this. This is why I am doing this podcast. If you guys love this podcast, I encourage you to, just like Jenny, leave a review and share with your friends so more people can, listen to it. Not read. Listen to it, and they can also feel seen. A lot of us don't feel seen because, as you know, as professional women, a lot of times we are told that we don't have the diagnosis because we've accomplished a certain level of success in our life. So, which brings me today. Because of this, I am actually going to talk about something called masking with ADHD, okay? So let's get started. So what is masking? Masking is a process by which an individual changes or masks their natural personality to conform to social pressures, such as their environment, their culture, maybe they have authoritative parents or leaders or even friends. Also, they may want to conform to help them hide from abuse or harassment. Okay, it is almost like your brain's way of keeping you safe from psychological danger. So when I started reading about this and learning about this, I wanted to know, like, why do we mask, right? So as you guys know, I'm a physician, so I always go back to biology, and I found that there's something called neuroception. Most of us have heard of perception, right? Perception is kind of like the way you think about or understand someone or something triggered by your senses. You think through this. It's more cognitive. You're more aware of the situation, right? So I had a discussion with my friend yesterday. My perception about that discussion is that she was a little bit defensive, right? So that's perception. You take people's feelings and your cognitive ability and you come up with basically a summary, right? And that guides you how you react or how you think through things. There's something called neuroception. This is more like a pre-perceptive state. It's the automatic and subconscious process that the brain undergoes to immediately recognize danger and keep us safe. What does this mean? So our primitive brain, this is before, now we have a cortex executive function aspect of us, right? Which is what is affected in ADHD. Prior to the executive function that is now big and bold and smart, we had the primitive aspect of our brain. We call that the automatic part. So the primitive brain is almost outside your cognitive awareness. It assesses traits and then automatically tries to keep us safe. So it's almost like a way of recognizing danger, right? Even before you think. A lot of us think about physical danger there's also psychological danger. So just like in neuroperception, we have this fight or flight response that we have in when we sense like the big bad lion, right? So the caveman wants to be safe. They want to stay in the cave so they don't, fight or flight, right? Whereas in see, I can't talk, guys. In neuroception, your automatic nervous system jumps into gear. Like you're not thinking, okay, my heart rate needs to go up. This all happens automatically. So Dr. Stephen Porges, he's known for his work on neuroception, explains that, for example, why is it that a baby coos at their mom or at a familiar caregiver even before their brain and spinal cord is very mature to understand the more cognitive and executive aspect, right? And they cry when there's danger. That is neuroception. Is that automatic awareness of, okay, this is not right and this is right. So this is something that we go through. Everybody goes through, not just everybody who has ADHD. So how does this connect to ADHD now that we've geeked out, okay? So ADHD, as you guys know, is a neurodivergent condition. And what do we mean by neurodivergent? When we say neurodivergent, it doesn't mean like it's good or bad. It's just when you think of diverge is away from the normal practice or away from what culturally is accepted, right? The way we act is not a lot of time acceptable to social cues or social norms, right? Like when we talk too much, when we're not supposed to, when we're impulsive, so we get the stares, we get the eyes, we get the eye, So it's neurodivergent. And one of the core things in human beings is the act of wanting to be belonged, right, to something. We want to belong. We want to feel we are part of something. And we underestimate how much our brain wants to keep us safe and make sure we are not triggered at all, right? So subconsciously, we mask those ADHD symptoms as soon as we have the neuroception or the perception or the psychological danger of psychological danger, right? So a lot of times we don't even know we're doing it. We all of a sudden start acting a certain way and we don't realize why we're acting that way. So I tell people that even if you don't know you have ADHD, you at some point have had people tell you, stop doing this. Don't do that. Stop moving. Pay attention. Those command things, right? And when people continually command you to do something, your body automatically think, oh, it's bad. That's why they're telling me to stop doing this. So what is the automatic things I'm going to do to help me so that I don't keep hearing this word from this authoritative person, right? Especially if you're getting punished for it. So another thing is that sometimes they say you're too sensitive, you talk too much, or have you heard, I wouldn't want to go to a doctor that has ADHD. I actually heard this, and that rocked me to my core, I would want a lawyer who has ADHD. What if they forgot important details about my case? But everybody who has ADHD knows that we are actually very good about, when we are passionate about something, you want us on your side, right? Like I would love a lawyer that has ADHD because we are social justice warriors. But the problem with society is they don't understand ADHD and they don't understand all the intricacies that comes with it. So guess what? We hide our symptoms, and we hide our symptoms by masking. I'm going to go down a little bit. I would say, even as a minority living in the USA, right, we are all too familiar with masking. I don't have to go into details. You guys know what I'm talking about. And I've had friends actually tell me that when they visited Africa, I'm talking about my African American friends now, when they visited Africa, they had the sense of putting down their guard, a weight they never even knew they had or had put up, right? They could finally be themselves. They could finally be free. They didn't have this constant anxiety and worry that something was going to happen to them, right? So I say, as a minority with ADHD, we actually have a double load. You have this anxiety and worry that you're going to be found out, that your ADHD is going to be found out, or you're not going to get that promotion when they know you have ADHD. Because who the hell wants to give someone with ADHD more responsibility, right? Which is the lie we tell ourselves, right? So we have that anxiety. And then in minority case, you're like, you then have imposter syndrome. Like, am I even supposed to be here, with my ADHD and me being a minority? So there's so many layers to this. But here's the thing though. I've heard this sometimes, but doesn't everyone mask? Isn't that like normal? Okay, so this is what I'm going to say. Everyone has basically like a professional work persona, and you have a life persona, you have a party persona, you have a persona with your family, you have a persona with your friends. That's not masking. That's more situation awareness. Masking is when, remember when I talked about neuroception? Masking is when your neuroception is at play and you are in this constant state of fight or flight. And think about it. When you are scared of a lion, think about that heart rate that you feel, right? Or that running you feel. But think about that continued anxiety, continued heightened state. It cannot be good. And a lot of time it leads to obsessive responses or anxiety and sometimes even shame to a situation that does not serve you, right? So when you're masking, it calls out what we call the inhibitory emotions. Your inhibitory emotions prevents people from experiencing the core emotions like joy or anger that you truly want to feel, but you're not feeling it because it's not quote unquote allowed in that situation that you're in, whatever the situation is, right? So for example, the inhibitory emotions you should know about are shame, guilt, and anxiety, which are one of the things that a lot of us feel. Okay, so for example, instead of feeling frustrated about a situation, but people tell you you're always frustrated, so you become anxious. Or, for example, when they tell you talk too much, you either upregulate yourself to become the life in the party, then you become a comedian, you own it, right? Or you downregulate yourself and you just don't talk anymore, and you become quote unquote super chilled. But people don't realize that your brain is such a circus. You have all these things going on in your brain. you know, it's not just yes, I'm quiet, but you're bottling down everything you want to say because you're not supposed to talk. So it's not as easy as people say, oh, just take down the mask, just take down the mask. And I want to give you some examples of ways that I have had to mask my ADHD without even me knowing, right? It wasn't until I started doing the soul work and the work of actually having awareness and coming to terms with things that are happening and things that I do that I actually realize that, oh, wow, this is totally me masking, right? So, for example, one of my main problems is my mind, and we all have this, a majority of us, I should say, my mind races faster than I talk. I don't know if you guys notice, even when I record this, sometimes I trip over my words, right? And it's even worse when I'm being called upon because I have social anxiety as well, right? People don't know this, but I do. Because my mind races faster than I talk, so I tend to trip over my words, especially when, I'm put on the spot or I notice I'm in some kind of performance situation. And when I mean performance, I don't mean like a comedy or a show, but like maybe I'm talking. So I feel, or like maybe I feel like I'm being judged by what I say or I'm trying to impress somebody. So I remember when I was in college and medical school, especially if it was a situation where you had to participate, right? So what I would do is I would practice my answer like 10,000 times in my head if it's something that I needed to talk about, right? And then I would say it first before anybody else. So I would contribute like maybe a couple of times. That way, I don't have to be called on anymore, right? That way, I've already said my piece and I don't have to be called on. And then my anxiety is somewhat relieved. But if I don't know when I'm going to be called on, I'm going to be anxious throughout the entire class. So that was a way of me masking a little bit. Okay. So I call it the obsessive, in my head, just obsessing over, okay, what are they going to say? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What am I going to how am I going to say this so I don't trip over my word? And I totally like obsess through it entire class till I'm called upon. And then when I'm called upon, I like trip on my words again. Okay. Another way I mask in this situation is sometimes I just stay quiet. And because I stay quiet, it doesn't necessarily mean I don't have anything to say. Or contrary, I actually have tons to say, but I kind of keep it to myself because I don't want to feel like that person who's hugging the conversation or trip over my word, right? And then I'm seen as less than. Or I carry this guilt and shame that now, like, I don't know what to replace certain words that I need to replace. So I just stay quiet, which are both not appropriate way of doing it, right? So other ways I mask is I am obsessive in checking doors in my garage because I've had a time where I forgot the garage open. And we live next to not a conservation, what it is. Yeah, it is a conservation land. So like we literally have a forest right next to us. And my fear is or staring in people's eyes when they're talking. Because I have been known, and I feel so bad about this. I feel so bad about this. To like daydream. I daydream when people talk and they just keep going. Especially, you have those friends that they are just wordy. Like, if you're my friend, please let's play some ping pong when we talk. You talk, I talk. You talk, I talk. But if you just like to hear yourself talk, trust me, I am nowhere near in the vicinity. Dr. Lola has left the building and she's in La La Land. Lola Land, thinking about all the things she has to do, building a whole city in her head. But I feel bad that I'm not paying attention when people are talking, right? Especially when they're going on and on and on and on. So what I do now is I then overfocus anxiously, and I, trying to be calm. I'm like, oh, I have no clue what they're saying, and it's really bad. I've worked on that too. But that's one of the things I learned. Like, oh my gosh, I'm totally masking when I'm doing this, right? Like, I'm over focused and then I'm anxious. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't really understand what they're saying, you know? Oh, so other things is like bottle your emotions, especially like me being a brown lady. I don't want to be the angry black woman. And with ADHD, we can be social justice warrior. We we just like to be in the side of the truth, right? So I tend to be somewhat, I don't want to say emotional, I tend to be passionate. Yeah, that's the word. I tend to be more passionate than usual, especially when it comes to things that affect, other people or people who are unjustly hurt or affected. So, but in me being passionate, sometimes it can come off as emotional or sensitive, right? So, because of that, a lot of times I bottle it up. For example, last year there were a lot of like things going on in America. I just did not want to hear it, not because I did not feel that I needed to hear it, but because I know me. I knew I would go overboard. I knew I would want to help in every way, shape, or form. I knew I would want to do that. So how do I combat that? I just bottle my emotion and I shut down, right? Which is not healthy. You need to be able to work through your emotion to be able to like make good life choices, right? To be able to contribute to society without being overly emotional. But we know with ADHD, we have really heightened emotion, which is the emotion dysregulation, okay? Another funny thing I used to do is like, okay, so like when I would have a flight the next day, I would like totally stay up all night because I was so scared because of my time blindness. Now I know it's time blindness, right? But I knew, like, I would totally forget I had a flight. Like, it was so bad. Like 5 hours prior, I knew I had a flight. All of a sudden, especially if it's somewhere I'm not really keen on going, if it's somewhere I want to go like a vacation, oh, I never forget, right? But because of that, what I do is I end up getting to the airport way earlier than I need to. That way I don't forget my flight, sometimes even 2 hours earlier, and I just chill at the airport, right? Whereas I could have slept in, I could have rested a little bit. So that whole, again, if you see the common theme is that anxiety, the obsession, right? Even like in school, remember you were like, I obsessively wrote notes all the time on everything. Either I was gonna use the note or not. Okay? Again, perfectionism, right? Anxiety, obsessive, that's when masking is bad, okay? Because we want to feel capable. We want to feel that we're doing what we need to do. We just have this heightened sense, which is not good for us, right? So, so again, psychological safety is very important. And the neuroceptions help you, is that automatic trigger, like I said, to keep your brain safe from danger. But is it really so bad, right? Is it bad that you're able to wear this mask so you could somewhat function okay in the world? Yes and no, right? I think, like, and this is an unpopular opinion, like masking may be necessary for some people. But masking is exhausting because you're replacing making the world comfortable with you by hiding the outward stress, but now you're internalizing that stress. Okay? With masking, not only are you internalizing that stress, you now have this perception that you're perfect, right? You have this, not that having ADHD, you're not perfect, but you have this perception that you do things a certain way. So when it comes to diagnosing, actually, masking makes it quite difficult to diagnose. And that's why a lot of us, especially high achieving professional women, go undiagnosed with our ADHD for years, right? We miss being diagnosed, and a lot of times we get diagnosed with anxiety, OCD, and depression, which are all result of that inhibitory emotions from our masking. Especially, and then depression, especially, right? If you're masking with shame a lot, you can go down the spiral of depression. So, and when you don't have a label for something, it's hard for you to know what to do about it, okay? And then another thing with masking is like even your family don't believe you. I have friends who have told me, "You don't have ADHD, girl. Girl, you don't have ADHD." Like they know me better than I do, right? Know myself, right? People don't believe you. And then when you think about, so one is exhausting, two, it can delay your diagnosis, like your physician and people around you may not believe you and it becomes difficult to diagnose, right? Three, you create unhealthy coping strategies, right? Besides just having anxiety, depression, and OCD, ADHD has a higher incidence of substance use, right? Because you're trying to find other ways to cope with what you think of as deficiencies, right? So a lot of us have substance use. So that's not appropriate, but we use it to again outwardly mask what's going on with us, right? And then number four, which I think one of the most things that people actually don't talk about a lot, not realizing that your body actually manifests stress in a physical illness. So if you're in a constant flight or fright response, constant state of anxiety, constant state of OCD, you start to have physical manifestation of your stress. You start to have high blood pressure. Your cortisol goes up. I could go into detail about all this biological aspect of things later on, but your body responds negatively to it. I heard one place where someone said, when your body is safe, your mind becomes safer, right? Because when your body is safe, then your mind doesn't feel the need to have this neuroception or inhibitory emotions to help you stay safe. I would also say when your mind is safe, your body is safe. So it goes both ways. There's a lot of times we think mind and body as two separate entities, but they're actually intertwined. So for you to have a healthy body, it's important to have a healthy mind. And for you to have a healthy mind, it's important to feel safe and have a healthy body or environment around you. Okay? Again, I want to reiterate this is an unpopular opinion. However, masking is a luxury for some people. Not everyone can unmask, okay? Um, cultural There are cultural consequences for unmasking, especially when done appropriately with a therapist and a coach. And not everybody really understands ADHD well. So if you just mask without having the proper things in place to help you, it may actually be bad for you to just drop down all your guards, okay? Again, I'll reiterate, your diagnosis is actually not everyone's business. So unmasking doesn't necessarily mean you're going to tell everybody, hey guys, I have ADHD. Hey guys, I have ADHD. That's not what I'm talking about. When we say unmasking, I'm talking about, just staying away from that constant flight or fright that you constantly feel and letting yourself learn strategies, like healthy strategies that takes you away from the constant anxiety, the constant guilt, the constant shame, and put things in place to actually help you. Okay? So I always recommend unmasking one at a time. You need healthy coping strategies to help you stay safe away from danger. You do. When your body is safe, then your brain does not sense that danger and your mask is easily dropped. But you cannot drop your mask if you still feel unsafe, okay? I want to actually also give an advice, not just for us, because a lot of us have children with ADHD. So, one of the ways that a lot of us got into this masking issue to even start off with is how we have been told, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't, you're too this, you're too that, don't be this, don't be that, right? The constant, like, stop it, stop it, stop it. I think you could break the cycle with your children. I always recommend you avoid affirmatives. Avoid telling your child, I'll use mine for example. You talk too much. Let's say we're somewhere and I'm like, you talk too much. Stop talking, right? Stop talking. You talk too much. That does she really talk too much, or is she trying to express herself in a socially not constructive way, right? So instead of saying you talk too much, which can make her go into psychological safety or crave psychological safety and shut down and don't even say anything anymore, right? You don't want that for your children either. You want them to be assertive. You want them to say their piece. Instead, you could say, I say you feel like you have to talk a little bit more than the other children. How can we do this so that you can still talk, but let's give space to some of the other kids to talk? You know what? Do we want to bring out a piece of paper? Well, ask for her opinion and see what he or she says. And then you can say, let's bring out a paper, write down our questions as it comes to us. And then once our question is asked, when maybe one or two people have talked in the class, then you can ask your question. That way you're a nice friend and you're giving the other people the ability to ask questions. And if class is over, you're not able to ask the teacher the question, you can go ahead after class and ask the question. Or if you have to go on to your next class, maybe you send an email about it. You still get to ask your questions and get the inquisitive nature of your child, but you're giving them strategies to help them be themselves without society thinking of them as, oh my gosh, she talks too much. She always hugs a conversation in class, right? So that's how you prevent your child from masking, okay? So, and it's so funny. I've tried this for myself. Actually, when I was in medical school, this is one of the strategies I put in place. And believe it or not, half of those questions were actually quite irrelevant. And I didn't even need to ask them. And the ones that I was still inquisitive about and really, really needed to know, I went up and asked the teacher. Or if I had to go to another class, I would just send them an email, right? And that allowed me to continue being the inquisitive person I am and continue to learn and be the amazing ADHD person that I am and my children are and your children are and you are, without shutting down, without feeling guilt, without feeling anxious, without being in that constant state of flight or fear response. Okay, so I want you guys to kind of like think through everything I've talked about today. And I want to give you something to do. I want you to identify which form of ADHD masking behaviors are, because you have healthy ones, but are unhealthy for you or hurting you. And then I want you to either discuss with a friend or discuss with a coach, or you could join a group of supportive professional women like our group, for example, Accomplish with Ease and the LollieTasking Lounge, where professional women with ADHD come together to learn. They grow and learn how to live a wholesome life, right? In this group, we thrive together. We'd love for you to join us. And if you can't join us, that's perfectly okay. You can always find a group of moms or a community where you are understood and where people understand what masking is and how it affects you. Or you can hire a coach. You can hire a coach or a therapist that can help you unpack and start to walk towards chipping down some of the mask that you have and have adequate coping strategy. Okay? And I think we're at the 30 minutes mark. I try to keep this under 30 minutes when it's a solo episode. And for those of you that are listening, you guys know during my solo episode especially, I do not edit in the spirit of perfectionism. I used to be so perfectionist. I would stop all the time and I never got any of my episodes out. So what I started doing is I'm not editing. I'm just going to talk like I'm talking to my friends, because guess what? When I'm talking to my friends, I don't edit. I just talk, okay? So if there's any noise or any cracks, I apologize for that today. I think the message beyond this is so much more important than the crystality. Is that a word? The crystal clear nature of the podcast. And that's it for today, LollieTaskers. I just want to thank you again for hanging out with me today. And I hope you have an amazing and intentional week ahead. Please don't be a stranger. If you have any questions or want to talk about this more extensively, you could join our Facebook group. Yeah, we have a Facebook group where we're going to continue having this conversation, and you could click on the show notes to see the information about the Facebook group. You can also contact us at hello, that's HELLO, hello, at LollieTasking.com, or follow us and please follow us on Instagram at LollieTasking.com. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging out with us on another episode of LollieTasking with ADHD. If you like what you've heard today, I would love for you to click the subscribe button, rate, and leave a great review, in addition to sharing with your friends. Your review allows visibility and also allows other amazing women to find this podcast. Also, if you have any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss, please contact me via direct message on Instagram at LollieTasker or email us at hello@LollieTasking.com. Till next time, this is LollieTasking with ADHD.